Chuck Bartholomew maintained a careful facade. To the woman next door, he was a dishwasher repairman, traveling for mundane corporate conventions. In reality, he served as an elite operative for the Smith Guard, a highly classified military intelligence division operating in total secrecy. Chuck's loyalty to the Guard was fueled by his domestic goals. He and his pregnant wife Nancy had spent weeks furnishing 3 vacant bedrooms in their suburban home. They were building a nest for a large family, preparing for children that hadn't arrived yet. That dream was put on hold for a high-stakes diplomatic mission to Antarctica. Chuck left his pregnant wife with a single promise: he would return in time for the birth. He entered the field believing his military service was the only way to guarantee his family's safety. Chuck endured brutal training courses and the threat of execution by xenophobic Antarctican soldiers. Every risk he took was a calculated trade, a sacrifice made to protect the nursery he had left behind. While Chuck was negotiating on the southernmost continent, Nancy was on a shuttle flight back from a space station. During re-entry, the spacecraft experienced a sudden and catastrophic malfunction, bucketing violently and plummeting uncontrollably into the waters of Smith Lake. The crash should have been fatal for both Nancy and her baby. The infant was nearly 4 months premature, a timeline that typically precludes survival outside the womb. Yet, despite the trauma of the impact, both mother and child were recovered alive. When Chuck rushed to the hospital, he found his son isolated behind a heavy security perimeter. The infant was locked in room 408, a restricted area governed by Level M clearance, a protocol Chuck had never even heard of in his years of service. The military was treating a premature newborn like a stolen weapon system. This level of secrecy suggested that the medical intervention keeping the baby alive was something far more complex than standard human medicine. Chuck utilized his operative training to bypass the Guard's own security. He scaled the hospital exterior, navigated the ventilation system, and incapacitated a guard to reach the restricted lab. Inside, he discovered a high-tech fluid tank. His son was suspended inside a flesh-colored sack, kept alive by a machine mimicking a human womb. Dr. Smith, the attending physician, finally disclosed the truth. The entire command structure of the Guard belonged to an advanced alien race. They had been operating a shadow war on Earth for years, hidden behind the Smith surname. The alien technology in the lab functioned as a perfect surrogate. It maintained exact temperature, oxygen flow, and nutritional supply, allowing the child to complete his development outside Nancy's injured body. The aliens possessed the power to save lives that human science would have lost. However, their intervention wasn't an act of charity. It was an application of a cold, non-human morality that valued survival over consent. The Smith Command viewed the world through the lens of utilitarian ethics. Every resource, including their human soldiers, was managed to achieve the highest possible military output. This flowchart outlines General Zeldor's secret directive. The command analyzed 2 variables: the family's survival and the asset's long-term availability. The analysis merges into a single directive. To facilitate the artificial womb, Dr. Smith performed a hysterectomy on unconscious Nancy. The reasoning was strictly logistical. A human soldier with a growing family requires frequent leave time for births and childcare. By ending Nancy's ability to conceive, the aliens ensured Chuck would never have another reason to request a leave of absence. Nancy's sterilization was a calculated mutilation. By removing her ability to bear more children, the alien command eliminated the risk of Chuck requesting future family leave. To the alien commanders, human families were logistical variables to be optimized on a spreadsheet. They had successfully liquidated a soldier's future distractions under the guise of a medical miracle. The cover-up lasted for months until Nancy visited a human, civilian doctor for a follow-up. The discovery of the missing organ shattered Chuck's trust in his commanders, exposing the true cost of the Level M intervention. Chuck stormed into General Smith's office, accusing the command of violating his wife for the sake of their military schedule. The confrontation laid bare the fundamental divide between human emotion and alien logic. Perplexed, General Smith was genuinely confused by Chuck's anger. From his perspective, the Guard had traded a future potentiality for 2 actual lives. He viewed the non-consensual surgery as a fair exchange for the survival of Chuck's wife and son. Chuck realized he was no longer a partner in a shadow war, but an asset to be modified and managed. He rejected the Guard entirely, proving that military logic is incapable of accounting for human dignity. Years later, the domestic consequences of the alien calculus remained. Thomas grew into a healthy, active child, but the household was defined by what was missing. 3 rooms in the Bartholomew house remained immaculately decorated and completely empty. They served as pristine monuments to a stolen future, filled with toys and clothes for children who would never be born. When Thomas asked why his parents looked at the empty rooms with such sadness, Chuck told him they were waiting for someone who'd never arrive. Thomas spoke to the empty space, telling the ghosts of his unborn siblings to leave them alone, finally closing the door on the aliens' version of a family. When military efficiency overrides human consent, the miracle of survival becomes a mechanism for control, leaving behind a family that is technically alive but permanently hollowed out.